Healthiest Radio, bringing you the latest in natural health and wellness. Hey everybody, I'm Crystal Brown, founder and CEO of Healthiest, and you're listening to the very first episode of our podcast series on Healthiest Radio, where we aim to bring you all the latest news in natural health, and we speak to leading innovators in the field. In this episode, we'll be speaking to Erasmus. He is the godfather of plant-based omega oils and fats. He's an expert in probiotics and plant-based diets, and truly a wealth of knowledge about all things health-related. It's a great show. He's coming to us straight from Vancouver, Canada, and we are so excited to have him on the show. So listen up. I'm so excited to talk to you. We've had this vision of really being able to get the word out on all these amazing health benefits of that we keep learning about, and all these amazing products. And I just this is the beginning, and USA is just a blessing that our paths cross. So I'm very appreciative.
Yeah, she's cool, and my deal is I'm very interested in health simply because I lost mine.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like not to have it. And when you lose your health, you need honest answers, because if people lie to you and the stuff doesn't work,
that's right,
then you've got nothing to go on. So I'm very big on truth in representation and presentation about what health is, and about how a program gets put together, and how people can get from where they are, which is basically, whatever I learned from my parents or whatever I learned from advertisers.
That's right.
That's basically where people are starting.
Yep.
And when it doesn't work, then they begin to say, well, gee, maybe what I've been doing isn't working. So, and then they become interested in health, and it becomes a teachable moment.
Exactly.
So I'm into the teachable moments.
That's so great. Well, I want to hear, that really resonates with me, because I grew up with very hippie parents in the Bay Area, and they were eating organic food 40 years ago. And as a parent, I have kids. I really had moved far from that, because I had sort of forgotten and been retrained with advertising. So it feels really good to sort of get back to basics.
Getting back to your hippie roots.
That's right. So
I was one of those guys.
That's what USA and I...
USA has hippie parents too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we share. So will you tell me just a little bit about that story of your health? Just a couple minutes of what it really was that got you to that sort of moment of, I got to find the truth.
Okay, I'll start a little further back just so you get
Okay, all right.
I was born in Europe during the Second World War. I'm going to be 74 this year. So I was born in Europe during the Second World War, and it was horrendous. And when people are cavalier about war, that never sat right with me, because they'd say, let's just have a war. And I get so fucking pissed off.
Yeah, I bet.
Right? Because it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been through one. This is not something that's funny.
I can't even imagine.
And then they'd always say, oh, God, Udo's so heavy. but
sometimes you have to go there. Sometimes you have to go there.
Sure. But what that did for me is, when I was 6, I was listening to adults arguing about things that to a 6-year-old seemed really trivial. And they were always arguing. I was in Germany, right?
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that, geez, there has to be a way that people can live in harmony, and I'm going to find out how.
I mean, even at a young age, when you were that little.
6 years old.
That's amazing.
And that drove everything. So I studied science to find out how the world works. Then I did biological science, so to figure out how human beings work.
Right.
Then I did psychology, because, the behavior is all based on stuff people think. So I wanted to know how that works. And then I got into self-knowledge, where you actually spend time with yourself and get to know what what you are. Yeah. And you kind of have to, a little bit, you have to sit still for that.
It's hard. That's right.
It's how do you get present in your own life if you never sit still or never take the time to actually pay attention.
And that's right.
So that's my whole story of and then in the course of all of that, there's like all the other stuff that happens, Yeah. Get married, have kids.
I know that part of the story.
The short story on that is, bad marriage, great kids.
That's
right?
Well, that's a good byproduct. Bad marriage is good kids. That's wonderful. I have that too.
Yeah, that's the really. Otherwise, you'd say, "What did I do that for?" Anyway, so then and then I got a job. I did all kinds of different jobs after I got out of university. I did gardening. I grew up on a farm. I spent quite a bit of time on the farm, so we were sort of handy. And so I did some carpentry and I did some painting, like house painting, and I did a gardening job. And in the gardening job, I got a pesticide sprayer's license.
That's right.
And eventually, after my marriage split, I took a full-time job as a pesticide sprayer because I wanted to kill something. Because I was really upset. It's honestly, that's how it was. And I knew better because I was in Vancouver when Greenpeace started. And so I knew all the environmental issues and I knew about pesticides, but I was totally not thinking straight. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. And the predictable thing happened after 3 years of spraying pesticides. I got poisoned by this pesticide.
And what were those first signs that you were poisoned? How did you know?
Well, there were several. I got cramps, dizziness, nausea. If I turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. That's obviously not possible, but that's what it felt like. No, you know what?
I've had that after I had one of my kids, and I had an epidural. I had that feeling where my skull felt like it was like there wasn't enough liquid there, that it was banging against. So I get to know that feeling you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the worst one was I didn't have any energy. I was 38 and I always had lots of energy and I still do. But I would walk around one block and I'd have to sit down and rest. And that was the worst. That lasted the longest. And out of that, I went to the doctor, said, "What do you got for pesticide poisoning?" They said nothing. I went to the guys the government agency that what do you call it? Credentialed me to spray pesticides, because you have to take a course and all that. I got 99.5% on the course.
I don't know whether to be proud. I don't know whether to be proud of that or.
Well, it's an accomplishment. And I actually asked the guy who marked it, I said, "Are you sure you didn't make a mistake marking it?" Because I was so sure I got all of the answers right. And he said, "Well, let me look." And he went through and he said, "How many instars in a crane fly?" And I said 4. And he said, "Well, you circled 2.
Interesting. So you really got 100%.
So I knew the stuff. And so then I went to the agency that credentialed me, a government agency, said, "Do you have any stuff on pesticide poisoning?" They said, "No, we can't let you see that." And I said, "Well, I've been poisoned by pesticide." They tried to tell me that I had a flu because they said the flu's going around. Then I got pissed off. And so I went to Greenpeace and said, "What do you have on pesticide poisoning?" And I met 2 women there that worked around those issues. And one of them had a stack of papers, probably about 2 feet high, on pesticide poisoning. I didn't hear any of that when I was licensed to spray in my courses, in the course that I took. So then I went through that, and I said, "Oh shit! More than 60% of the pesticides that exist cause cancer." And I had cancer to look forward to, and my palms were sweating.
Yeah.
You know what means when your palms are sweating. Serious
I'm curious
anxiety.
At that moment, did you personalize that? Like, oh my God, I might get cancer. Were you thinking, oh my God, I've been spreading it?
No, it was clear I had cancer to look forward to. And because I'd been spraying it, I never wore protection. The wind would drift it on my skin. I used to spray in a bathing suit and rubber boots, no shirt, right? Had a tractor with a big truck with a big tank of pesticides and spray lawns and then spray trees with the gun and never protected myself from it. And so then I said, well, if you do something that makes you sick, if you do the opposite, that should get you healthy.
Did you really deep dive into studying what would it be? Yeah.
Then I said that got me. Then I realized my health is my responsibility.
That's so important.
Not somebody else's.
That's so important.
It's huge. And I said, okay, so what do I do? Well, I have the background in sciences and biological sciences. I know how to read the research. I know the technical words. I went into Medline, which is a database of 20 million research studies. And in Medline, there were 600,000 studies on fats and health. I was looking for health and oh no, so the first, before that, I realized if your body's made out of food, then food is probably the place where you should look to make improvements if you want to get healthier. I forgot about water because everybody always said water was, it's kind of like water is just inert stuff. It's not. Water is actually more important than food because you drink more of it than you eat food. There's more absorbed into your body. And in a lifetime, you actually go through 22 times more water.
Well, recently we were out sort of talking about what we're working on, and one of the investors said, if I could do one thing today, one thing, what would it be? And I said, filter your water, because you don't know the source. And so to your point, but then the second thing is really about the food.
But there's more than just filtering water. This I don't know what you work with. I work with the Kangen water machine.
Well, we have these. We have these water bottles that are, they look a little bit like plungers or like a French press to filter out on the go. Yeah. But yeah, we could get into water after oils.
Mine's a $4,000 machine that charges the water, that makes it alkaline. But it doesn't do it by adding minerals. It actually splits the water into an acid and an alkaline.
And what's the name of it? What's it called?
It's called Kangen, Kangen.
So yeah, that's what I'm sort of
Anyway, but at that time I was thinking, well, if the body's made out of food, then food is where I should look. So I went into the journals to look at food and health, food and disease, and then I got stuck on oils. I was doing all of it, but I got most focused on oils because I found out how much, first of all, oils are our most sensitive nutrients. So omega-3 and omega-6 are more sensitive to damage done by light, by oxygen, by heat, by metals, and by water than any other nutrient.
There must have been a connection between your health and then that moment of the sensitivity of oils. It must have been that there's they're so essential, and you realize
you're faster than I am. I was going to in my slow round way. Yeah. So I started reading that and said, okay, these are our most sensitive nutrients. We treat them with the least care of any nutrients, because when we make them, we treat them with Drano, then we treat them with window washing acid, very corrosive acid and base. Then we bleach them, which turns them rancid. And then to clean up the mess, we heat them to frying temperature. And when you do that, 1% of the molecules are damaged.
Yeah.
And 1% in a tablespoon of 1% damaged oil, you get about 60 million damaged molecules that never existed in nature, that therefore you don't have a genetic program to break down. 6 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 10 trillion cells in 1 tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged.
Tell me specifically, when you are eating that damaged oil, what does that mean? What should I be, so annoyed and scared and sort of up in arms about eating that type of oil?
Well, that all of the oils that have been treated with Drano window washing acid, bleached and fried, which is all of our cooking and all the colorless, odorless, tasteless oils on the shelf, there's an association with cancer. There's an association with inflammation. Inflammation is behind most of our major degenerative diseases. And why inflammation? Because molecules get in the body that don't fit in there. They never existed in nature. Gotcha. They don't fit in there. Your life never, because they never existed in nature, your life never had to make a way to deal with them. So they get in your body, your immune system goes, shit, what is this? Right? Your immune system goes crazy trying to figure it out, and part of what it does, it creates inflammation, and that's to slow down circulation, to isolate the problem until it can figure out what to do with it. So it's a natural reaction to something unnatural for which the immune system has no solution, and which then drives your immune system crazy and keeps you with inflammation long-term
So it's just
systemically.
like putting any other poison in your body. Right.
Yeah, you can do it with pesticides, you can do it
Right.
with plastics, right? Any molecule that never existed in
That's
nature,
right.
unless there are other molecules like that in nature that your body did develop something for. If it didn't, they're gonna build up in your body, very slow to get rid of them because they come off with your
Right.
skin shedding and the lining of your digestive tract shedding. So very slow to get rid of them. And if you bring in more, if you bring them in
Right.
at a higher rate than the body can get rid of them,
Right.
they're going to
So
pile
that's
up.
so that's
Right?
sort of my question is, well, there's a couple questions.
Yeah.
I have so many questions, but Americans we're lazy. We want the quick fix.
That's
Okay.
not an American trait. That's part of human
Okay.
everywhere.
I won't bash on Americans.
Yeah.
But
Don't bash on
being
Americans.
one.
Go ahead. You
But
can. I won't bash on Americans because
Exactly.
I'm Canadian. So I'm going to get to do that, and I don't want a missile to land in my kitchen.
That's right. But quick fixes, right? The drive-throughs, and so But your oils and your products that you've developed are, it may not be the most convenient to be the healthiest, and trying to get people to remember that it long term it is a lot more convenient for your body. But in that short term, quick fix, how do you get that message out?
Well, let's redefine quick fix. Nature is the quick fix. Okay? Health was invented by life in nature. And there's your parameters. This is the context. If you live out of line with nature, that's going to cost you something in health. That's just the way it is. And in nature, everything was fresh, whole, raw, organic. The food was mostly plant-based, because when you had rocks to hunt with, you didn't come home with a lot of meat.
That's right.
Right? So what did they do? Well, plants don't run away. They don't fight. They're really easy to hunt down and kill. So when the hunters came home without meat, the family ate vegetables. And there's many things in the body that make it apparent that vegetables were the main thing. For instance, red meat has a lot of iron in it. We're very good at absorbing iron, and we're not very good at getting rid of it. Women, during their period, get rid of it. Men, if they fight and get hurt and bleed, they would get rid of it. We're now civilized. We don't get that. Men get iron overload, and iron overload leads to cardiovascular problems. And all that tells you is we're not used to getting so much iron that we had a way to get rid of it.
So when that investor asked me what was the healthiest thing he could do, and I said filtered water. The second thing I was going to say was, how about a plant-based diet? But they're a big restaurant.
And the research is so clear now. If you want to be if you want to have the longest life and the healthiest life, plant-based whole foods are your ticket. And vitamin B12, because that's an animal product.
So I really want to hear, how did you actually, like I said, we could probably talk for 10 hours, and I hope we get to do this again.
I could, and you keep interrupting me. But it's a lot more fun.
Well, I'm curious, the connection to picking the specific product lines you started to go down. Yeah.
Yes. So let me go back to that. So what happened when I realized how much damage is done to oils? I literally said, shit, I can't get healthy on oils like that. We should make them with health in mind. Because they're not made with health in mind. They're usually made with shelf life in mind. Right. And that's good for the industry, because they can make it where you live. Okay, so they could make it in San Francisco, and they could sell it in Vancouver, and they could sell it in Johannesburg, and they could sell it in Moscow. And so you have a huge market if you can make the oil have a 2-year shelf life. But oils by nature do not have a 2-year shelf life. So you take out all the stuff that gives it a short shelf life. Right? And that was for convenience for the industry. Now, 100 years ago, this oil industry started, about 115 years ago, more like. And before that, everybody cooked their food in water. They didn't fry in olive oil. They always added olive oil after they cooked their veggies, right? And so the industry said, geez, they're using water for cooking. Imagine if we could get them to use oil for cooking. We could sell so much oil. How do we do it? Oh yes, we tell them it's
Right.
convenient, and we tell them that burnt food tastes good, and so that's how that big
Well,
industry started. So I said, I can't get healthy on oils like that. We should make them with health in mind. What does it take? From the seed to the protected bottle in a box, nitrogen flushed in glass, in that whole process of pressing, filtering, filling. You got to protect all of that from light, from oxygen, from heat.
And so
I developed a method for doing that. And it means you have to make a very tight system, because you have to make a very tight system because molecules are very small and they go through very small cracks, and so you have to be really anal about how you build
this connection of what you said in the beginning of personal responsibility for your health, and a lot of that is okay, the industry and frying all your food, but what you're saying is really like take it upon yourself to make sure you're putting the oils in your body in a safe and healthy way versus where everywhere else we're getting them from. And it really it forces you to take responsibility.
Right. And well, the truth is health is your gift. And if you're not willing to take care of your gift, why would you think anybody else would? They're just like you too.
Well, it's not right.
So if you're not taking care of it, why do you think your grocer would take care of your health? Right.
So that was many years ago that you started this, right?
So we are in fact responsible for our own health.
Yeah.
But then if we're responsible for our health, then we got to start thinking about, well, what is health? And how do I put a program together to have health? And that is on the heart level, it's on the thinking level, it's on the physical level. So it's not just food and fitness, it's also on the social level, and it's also on the environmental level, because everything affects health. And so you basically have to create everything you need in order to put together for yourself the best situation you can to have the best possible life. Now, there is some drive in human beings for that, and that's kind of the balance for the laziness and the cutting corners. Right? This is something in us wants to have.
And I think that's where it comes down to trust and really knowing who to listen to. Not everyone has a PhD and is able to do the research or has access. And so helping sort of everyone, because I actually do think a lot of people want to be healthy, and they sort of feel hoodwinked. Like, well, I thought that was healthy because it says natural, and I thought that was healthy because it says fresh. And really, the only way to help people find their own health is to educate them in the right way, which is, really what I'm excited to hear. I mean, I feel like I'm getting an education today, and I want to share that because I think people need to know why. Yeah. I really didn't understand until I talked to USA a lot more about which, fractionated oils and shelf life, and I didn't know. And I've been studying it for a while.
It's a big field. It's for sure. But ultimately, you always look to nature. How was it in nature before we got civilized? Right? Because that's where the standard came from.
So that's the question about when we talk about omegas and when people know fish oil. So there must have been some big idea that those omegas were important, and they are. And then how did you decide to go down the path of plant-based versus... Because there's the rocks. Okay. The rocks.
So when I did the research, I discovered, among other things, first of all, that omega-3 and 6 are both essential. That was known for omega-6 in 1929, so a long time ago. But for omega-3, that was only established in 1981, which was the year after I got poisoned. So my timing was perfect.
I don't know if anyone's ever said that. My timing for being poisoned was perfect, but you're right.
But it was, because if I'd have been poisoned 20 years before or 3 years after, I wouldn't have been there looking and get to it just when it was happening, right? So I mean, that's just a way to look at it. And so they're essential. So what does essential mean? Essential, that applies to 13 vitamins, 18 minerals, 8 to 11 amino acids, depending on whether you're adult, a child, or a premature infant, and 2 essential fatty acids. So this is the definition. It's a nutrient that you cannot make in your body, or that life cannot make in your body. It is a nutrient you have to have for body construction or body function. So you can't live without it. And because you got to have it, but you can't make it, it has to be brought in from outside. That'll be either through food or through supplement. That's the first part. Second part is, if you don't get enough, you go down. You don't get enough, you get deficiency symptoms. They're like characteristic, different symptoms, depending on what you're talking about. Low energy is a common one. Depression is a common one. For oils, dry skin is a common one. But you get deficiency symptoms that are characteristic of whatever is missing, and you can get a combination if you're missing more than one thing. The deficiency symptoms get worse with time, and if you don't get enough long enough, you die. That's what essential means. So this is the really important stuff. This is like what all of the natural health stuff, physical health, is based on. That's the second part. The third part is, if you're going down, but before you die, because by definition death is not reversible, before you die, you bring enough of the substance that's too low back into the diet, then all of the deficiency symptoms are reversed and you get your health back. Because life knows exactly what to do with all of these essential nutrients, provided we make sure enough of them land in our body that life can do its job.
That resonates with me on two things. One is just the idea of detoxing your liver, just that your liver, if you continue to keep it healthy, it will do its job. And also probiotics, where, I had lots of digestive issues for years, and I started making my own probiotic yogurt and adding in fermented foods, and it's been so different because I was, again, sort of just not conscious of what are those things my body needs to function well. So I love what you're talking about, which is like, give your body the opportunity to do its job.
Yeah. Now, probiotics are not nutrients, and digestive enzymes are not nutrients, and fiber is not nutrients, because we don't absorb them into our body. But they're required, so they're not essential nutrients. But they're required for health. But they do their job outside the human body, because the inside of your digestive tract is actually outside your body. Right? It's just a hole through your middle, and you throw stuff in there, and then your body puts acid in there and enzymes in there, breaks it all down, sucks up what it needs, and the rest goes through. So that's all happening outside the body. But to make sure that works properly, you need digestive enzymes, probiotics, and fiber. So they are extremely important for health, even though they are not essential nutrients.
Yeah. That's great.
And then the detox, I separate that out from the nutrients. You got to bring in the nutrients. You want to avoid what is not natural. And then, because you also create toxins in your system and you don't live in a pure toxin-free world, it helps to support your detox mechanism. Detox mechanisms are 5. One is your skin, sweating. And you can sweat out water-soluble toxins. They'll show up in the water part of your sweat. And you can sweat out oil-soluble toxins, and they will show up in the oil part of your sweat. The oil-soluble toxins tend to be more toxic than the water-soluble.
Well, based on what you were saying, that makes sense.
And it's important to take enough good oils that aren't damaged, because if they're damaged, they're toxic too, so that you can sweat more, and they will show up in the oil part of your sweat. So that's one. Second is just the bowel. Your lining sheds, and so you poop them out. Then there's your kidneys. So you pee them out. Why drinking a lot of water is important. For cancer, for instance, disease of toxicity, if you drink 3 liters of water a day, you can decrease cancer just by drinking water and not doing anything else. So water, and then breath. Volatile toxins come out of your breath. And then the liver is the detox organ. So you want to support liver function, which is done with certain nutrients and certain herbs. And then that goes in your digestive tract, and then you have to have enough fiber so that it actually gets carried out and doesn't get reabsorbed, because that can happen too. That's one of the reasons why
you started with oils, but you have the digestive enzymes and the probiotics. And,
Yeah, let me back up and finish the oils. Okay, so I started working with oils, and first product I developed was flax oil. Flax oil is very rich in omega-3s, twice as rich as fish oils. It's a more basic form, so it's more stable. It's like 5 times more stable, the plant omega-3, than the fish omega-3. And so I started with that, but the ratio between omega-3 and 6 is not good. And I actually became omega-6 deficient on flax oil when I used it as my only source of oil. And I did that because the guys I was working with, they started saying, oh, flax is the best source of both essential fatty acids. And I didn't think it was true, but I didn't have any evidence. So I decided to do the evidence of one. Try it on myself. What will happen if I only use flax oil? And the ratio is 4 times more omega-3 than omega-6. Within 2 or 3 months, I was deficient in omega-6s, classic symptoms, dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis-like pain in my finger joint, arthritis-like pain in my finger joints, and thin, papery skin. And I fixed it by eating sunflower seeds because they have a lot of omega-6 and no omega-3. And at that point, it occurred to me, make a blend, all the good stuff that we need from oils, none of the bad stuff that we should avoid because they're bad fats. The book is called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill for that reason. Two completely different stories. And then get the ratio right, put them in glass because oil swells plastic and plastic leaches into oil quicker than into water. So put them in glass, put a box around it to cut all the light out, keep them in the fridge, in the factory, in the stores, and at home. So we literally set the standards for all of that. And when then it became really hot. Omega-3s became, flaxseed became hot.
Which is good.
And just the whole oil story. I became hot. I was already hot, but I became hotter.
You're ahead of your time. You're hot ahead of your time.
Basically, it's pioneering in a way, right? So then people would come, everybody wanted to carry the oil. And we would do this interview with them. It was so, I'm so proud of this. Yay! We would have this is how the interview would go. They say, we want to carry your oil. And we say, okay, do you have refrigeration in your storage? If they said yes, the guy I traveled with would do the business with them. Because I wasn't the business guy. He was the deals maker and I was the educator. Right? And then if they said no, the second question was, are you willing to bring it in? If they said yes, we said, call us when you got it. And if they said no, we would say this is a good time to end the interview. We would not do business with people who weren't willing to take care of our oil the way it needed to be taken care of.
Well, that's just good ethics.
And then so we set that standard too. Because oils are sensitive, they need that care. If you want, and there are more health problems come from bad oils than any other part of nutrition because they're so sensitive and so easily damaged, and because we damage them so much. And there are more health benefits come from good oils than any other part of nutrition. So we basically that created a new industry. Now, I want to say one other thing. There's always been this argument about flax oil, fish oil, flax oil, fish oil. It started the week we came out with flax oil. And one of the fish oil manufacturers came up with that argument. The body can't convert. Never been true. But the argument is the wrong argument. Because oils are major nutrients in the body. We need them in tablespoon, not in gram quantities. Capsules about 1 gram. Basically, I recommend of the oil a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day. So I weigh close to 200. 4 tablespoons, 56 grams. 56 grams, about half of that is omega-3. So you got about 25 grams of omega-3.
I'm so fascinated about what you said. I'm just so fascinated that you could really feel the difference, that you immediately could see the difference when you were omega-6 deficient. And
the symptoms are they're not just noticeable.
Yeah, I know,
they're
but it's
serious.
just and that inspired a better product or the right product.
Yeah, and part of it is I pay attention. I live in my body. I pay attention to it.
So I'm loving your oils and I'm loving the story and
So we have to make a distinction between the food oil foundation and the supplement oil. And the easiest way to tell the story is everybody needs the foundation in place. Some people will do better if they add a supplement, and no one can be healthy on supplement alone. And the foundation is more important than the supplement. And the supplement, if it comes to fish oils are 5 times more sensitive than the plant omega-3s. So they're even more damaged than the cooking oils. But nobody tells you that. And if you want to do a supplement, my recommendation is krill oil. Krill oil is made in a completely different way. You need less for the same amount. It's in a different form. It's absorbed better, and it has a wider range of benefits.
It's funny, we just selected a krill oil to work with based on that. And a lot of it, the way we look at health and how we really try to we really want to get the word out. We want to help people make really good decisions and work with brands that have made good decisions. But these are, even that is very sensitive. It needs to be cold shipped. It needs to be treated with respect. It needs to, it's sort of what you're putting in your body. And so do you consider, your line of digestive enzymes and probiotics, those are all in the supplement camp versus the essentials with, sort of the food oil?
The oil is a food oil, although it's classed in a supplement category, and that's all for regulatory reasons. But the oil is a food oil. It's foundation. So if you want the best from oils, in terms of foundation, it's Udo's oil. In terms of supplement, it's krill oil.
And I'd love to hear...
Krill oil, of course, is an animal product, but it's very low on the food chain, so there isn't the PCBs and dioxins. And the way they make it, they do it without damage. And it has its own antioxidant in it. And it's really cool stuff.
I was going to ask you about the antioxidant in it and, how you think about antioxidants otherwise. If you weren't taking krill oil, for example, the supplement, the other antioxidants that you've put into your body and you put into your diet.
Yeah. The best way to look at antioxidants is whole plant foods other than the starchy foods. So we're talking about all the greens and the reds and yellows. Tons of antioxidants, not just carotene, not just polyphenols. There are hundreds, there are probably thousands of antioxidants, and they run in cascades. So rather than taking a vitamin C supplement and nothing else in that cascade, you want to get it from fresh whole foods as much as possible.
And
more and more, there's research coming out that when you take just high doses of single ingredients like resveratrol, or
not
them
as
all,
well as you do, but I'm learning.
The names of all. There's so many, right? If you just take single doses of them, they are not long-term very helpful.
And
short-term, you can get some pharmaceutical effects. From long-term, you're missing the rest of the cascade, and all of the energy in your body that keeps the structure healthy runs on energy pathways, you might call them. And those energy pathways jump from molecule to molecule to molecule, from a high energy to a low energy, and then that has to continue to be replaced. That's why you need to eat. Right? Because if nothing ever broke down, then you could stop eating once you were grown up.
I love this notion of really sort of eating the nutrients. But for me, and I was a vegetarian at a young age. I told you I had hippie parents, which I'm very appreciative of. But when it came to digestive enzymes and probiotics, it really changed what was going on for me. It was like, and I don't know the science behind that. I just know that for years I was uncomfortable, and then I sort of fixed that.
So once I got the fats done, I said, okay, that was the biggest issue that needed attention, the most misrepresented, most misunderstood. And the next thing is like, okay, well, what else needs attention? Well, they were already making multiminerals and vitamins and all that stuff. So it's like, that's not what needs attention. But digestion needs attention. Because everybody's got something going on with digestion. What do you need for digestion? Well, the first one was probiotics. And why is that? Because in nature, if you were living like a deer and you were eating grass, there would be probiotics on the grass. And they'd be live. They came out of the top layer of the soil where the dead grass ferments. And when the grass pushes through the soil, they come with that. They happen to be our friends. Whereas the rot bacteria, they're in the soil. They're friends of dead bodies, but they're not friends of living bodies, right? And the probiotics keep the friends of the dead bodies from eating us before we're dead.
Amazing way to look at it.
So they're friendly bacteria. They protect us from the unfriendly bacteria that would love to eat us or love to live in our digestive tract even, because it's warm there, so they can multiply fast and there's food there, right? So they'd all love to live there, but they would make us sick if they did. Cholera, typhoid, salmonella, E. coli. So there are lots of different ones. And the probiotics protect us. But what we do now is we're not living there. We turn over the soil, so it's not the same situation. But worse than that, we bring the food home. It's not fresh. It sits around for a couple of weeks before it gets to our fridge, maybe. And then we cook it, and we kill the probiotics. Now where are they supposed to come from? The rot bacteria are everywhere. The probiotics we killed. So we end up with rot bacteria in our gut, which is why our breath is so bad in the morning, right? Because we don't swallow. They sit there and they multiply and multiply and multiply, and there's nothing to fight them. Mouthwash wears off, they one-time kill, and then they go again. And they double every half hour. So in 8 hours of sleep, by the time you wake up, you have like 32 times more rot bacteria in your mouth than you had before the mouthwash. Which is why morning breath is always so bad.
That's a really good,
the worst breath, right? It's always, so I brush my teeth with probiotics and swallow them before I go to bed. Leave them in my mouth. It's amazing the difference it makes. So that was the first one we started working with, and we made a set of probiotics that's age specific because they change. The ones that are normally present in healthy people change as you age, and the amount you need increases as you get bigger, and then increases as you get older because you need more help, especially.
But you would say even at a very young age, a young kid would need probiotics. A young.
Well, if you breastfeed the child, probiotics will come from the breast because they live in the breast ducts, and the kid will get them. But if you feed them formula, there are no probiotics there. So then they're going to get whatever it is, yeast or rot bacteria, whatever it is. And there's good research that shows breastfed infants are healthier later on than kids who were not breastfed. So you really, as soon as they start eating cooked food or sterilized or pasteurized food, you need to bring back
so my question is, I think probiotics is going to be another thing that's sort of mass marketed. And I would want to make sure that if I was saying, look, everyone I know should really think about probiotics, and you should be looking into taking them or getting them naturally in your food. But what are the things that you looked for when you were creating yours to make sure that it was the right probiotic? Because what's going to happen. GNC and every Walgreens will have something that says probiotics, and it won't either be the right strains or how did you make sure that you got the right ones?
Yeah, and it's a messy field because there are certain probiotics in the family of lactobacilli and bifidobacteria. They don't form spores, so that you can't just dry them and stick them on a shelf. We refrigerate them. And the reason for doing that is there's attrition. It'll be maybe 2 to 5% if you leave them out, and it'll be 1 to 2% per day. I didn't say that right. If you keep them refrigerated, the attrition goes down by a factor of 4 to 16 over what would happen if they were outside the fridge.
And the source matters, right? Where you're sourcing this from.
Well, the source is basically they all come from the probiotics bank. There's about 50 that are used for human beings. There are other bacteria that have benefits, like there are certain yeasts and other bacteria that do form spores that also have benefits. And now that it's getting mixed up, people are calling them probiotics too. But the best way, if they're lactobacilli and bifidobacteria, I always tell people, get them in the fridge, don't get them off the shelf. Because on the shelf, if they're not in the refrigerator in the store, they're probably not in the refrigerator in the factory either. If they don't refrigerate them in the factory, you don't know how old they are, and you don't know if you have any living ones left.
Is that the same with the digestive enzymes? No.
This is true 2 weeks without refrigeration, closed for oil and for probiotics. If the shipping is longer, we ship the oil refrigerated to Europe and to Asia. But if it's 2 weeks, you can get along without the refrigeration. And once you get them in the home, you put them in the fridge or in the freezer. You freeze the oil solid, the molecules don't move, and you end up with a 3-year shelf life. With the probiotics, same. With enzymes, different. Enzymes are in raw foods. When we cook the foods, we destroy the enzymes. So we should replace them. They don't need to be in the fridge because they're dry. They're just molecules. Probiotics are critters.
I see what you're saying.
Right? So enzymes don't need refrigeration unless it's humid. In some places, if humidity gets in, then they get messed up. And that was the third thing, that because if you destroyed the enzymes by cooking the food, then you're putting a load on your digestive system that it wasn't meant to have to carry. And that will catch up with you. I started getting interested in enzymes when I turned 50 because I became a gas bag, and almost overnight. I mean, it was amazing. And then I started thinking about what is that about? And when I ate raw foods, I didn't have that problem.
I had that
when
same.
I didn't mix them too much,
that was such an experience for me, and how quickly after taking digestive enzymes, things changed for me.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Oh, go ahead.
There are quite a few people say you don't need enzymes because your body makes all the enzymes it needs. And my daughter Usa took a course because she was working with me, and she decided to take a biology course. And her prof said, "You don't need enzymes. Body makes all the enzymes it needs." He said, "Dad," he says, "Dad, I didn't know what to say. I know you have a different idea. I didn't know what to say to her." So I said, "Well, I don't know what you should say to her, but here's what I would have said to her. Enzymes don't work. How come when I started taking them, I stopped farting so much?" Right? Because what the problem is with some of the academics is they don't take any practical experience. And they copy each other. And if the guy at the beginning got it wrong, then for the next 30, 40, 50 years, everybody who copies them gets it wrong because they're not doing the original research. They're not actually paying attention. So they're just doing it out of their head from ideas. And there's no practical, physical, personal body experience.
And we've been working with a lot of healers. I would put you in that category of healers that really talk and want to educate. And one of them is, he's a healer out of India, but he's actually from Brunei. And he was talking a lot about, having seen these patients, really sick patients, and complete reversal based on food combining and body manipulation and herbs and the use of supplements. And that was the sort of a moment where I thought, how do we create a company that helps find people who are healers and get the word out so that everyone can learn from these people that have had practical experience, either through their own. And, so I would just, a couple of questions before, I know we're almost at the hour, but what do you want to do next? What's the, you've sort of every phase of your life, you're, solving the next problem. And what do you see as that, what do you hope happens to your oils all along?
Well, what I'm actually working on right now, other than maintaining what I have, is I'm working on turning health into a systematically organized, teachable field. Consumer-friendly, but coherent and comprehensive. And that deals with human nature. Because you can get cancer from just thinking bad. You can get cancer from being discontent. You can get cancer from being always under social pressure in a social environment that is not conducive to good health. And so what I'm trying to do is create a teachable field of health that addresses all of it, from the environmental all the way to the core of the human being.
To be along for that ride. If you could say, like, what was asked to me, what are the 3 things you would tell someone, you have to do. If you want to have good health, these are the 3 things you have to do.
Okay. Be present in your own life. Or the other way to say is discover or get in touch with the core of your being, where your personal peace and your contentment live.
Love that.
Because personal peace and contentment are not conditional unless you make them conditional. There's something in us that is content, and that can be content no matter what our circumstances are. And that's really useful to have because of all the things to be able to live on and stand on. That's the only thing that's completely stable.
I love that.
Because that, everything else changes. The body changes, the thoughts change, the people change, the environment changes. There's one thing in a human being that never changes, and it's really nice to have a sort of a foundation for that. So that's number one. I call that ingredient one. Contentment is ingredient one. When I feel content, then it's like, okay, it's not about me and getting my things met. I'm good. I've always been whole. I didn't know that before, but I'm whole. Now I can look around and say, okay, well, what needs to be done around here? And then I can start to address issues, not because I'm going to get my needs met for them, but because my needs are met, but because they need to be done. So then if the water is polluted, how do we fix it? If the environment is polluted, what do we need to do? And then if we have a disease management system that is misrepresented as healthcare, what do we need to replace it with? Well, we need a systematically teachable field of health based on nature and human nature, where health was created, right? If we want peace in the world, it's got to be based on human nature, not on political negotiations or religious promises for what can happen to you after you die. Because I want my peace now, because now is when I'm confused, right? Now is when I'm in conflict. I want it now. So then how do you create a teachable field of peace? How do you create sustainable energy that doesn't burn up our breathing oxygen? Because fossil fuels burn up our breathing oxygen, right? And if we dig them all out, we will end up with 5% oxygen in the air. We'll all be dead by that time because we breathe out 16%. And the plants living on the planet is not where most of our oxygen comes from. So only a quarter comes from them. The rest of it comes from the fossil fuels that were buried and didn't rot and left the oxygen in the air. That's what we're living on. So these are all big
but
issues.
I think what you're getting at, and what I really, the more you can educate someone and inform someone and help them make easy, choices, then that's how it changes. It's like one to many.
Yeah, and all of this stuff that I'm talking about comes out of that conversation I had with myself when I was 6 years old about how human beings could live in harmony together, and finding out how. And so literally, I'm now taking on global topics. I'm writing about it, getting it straight in my own mind. That's how I start. And that's basically what I'm doing. If I can help you build your thing on honest education, I'd be happy to work with you.
We love it. And, we want to start by really meeting people where they are, by, if it's starting by explaining the story of oils and helping them figure out how to get those, it's great. Starting at the beginning. Thank you.
Yeah, and blogs, and just creating the foundation of how life works, how health works, how nature works.
I love it.
And if you have blogs or things, I'm happy to do that.
Well, we do, and I really appreciate that, because there's I don't know if you've ever heard of the Khan Academy. It's an education tool that a guy, it was a physics professor, was tutoring his nephew in Florida, and he was in California. And he put on YouTube a video explaining how to do this homework. And 2 million people watched this video because it was really great. And it occurs to me with health, if you can get that nugget from people who know and figure out a way to let other people in on those secrets, they shouldn't be secrets, but they are, then you empower people to take action. And so meeting people like you, that's what we want to do. Is, I haven't been studying it for my lifetime, but I want to make sure other people get to hear it. So thank you so much.
Beautiful.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye, Crystal.
Thanks for joining, everybody. A big thanks to Udo Erasmus for joining us, and to Anil Kishan for editing our first episode of Healthiest Radio. Our website is healthiest.io, where you can check out our blog, a great selection of products, and you can follow us on Twitter at healthiest__ and Facebook for all the updates. And feel free to get in touch with us. We want to hear from you. Take care. See you next time.